The Akamar's desperate pleas for help echoed through the lonely void of space, with the entire Galactic Alliance coldly abandoning them to slaughter, except, of course, those vicious bastard humans. Captain John Crawford snarled as he listened to the hysterical insectoid diplomat shrieking for aid, slamming his fist on the console to accept the transmission. Those idiot bugs should have known. When the Kryler warfleet came knocking, only the battle-hungry humans would even consider sticking out their neck. Crawford punched up a flickering holomap of the Hyperion Nebula, tracing a path through the twisting gravitational anomalies and searing radiation. The grizzled merc had to reach Akamar Prime before the planet got glassed, even if it meant flying straight into a cosmic meat grinder. His rust-bucket frigate didn't stand a chance against the ruthless Krylor armada, but what choice did Crawford have? Let another race get snuffed out, like all those greenhorn privates on Sigma G12? A barrage of frag missiles blanketing that jungle hellscape as Crawford dragged his bloodied body to the evac shuttle. The brass pinned the blame on him, but the old soldier knew the real truth. He sent good humans to die, and now the entire Earth Defense Force wanted his head. Answering this suicide mission was the only shot at redemption. If Crawford didn't reach Akamar Prime in time, humanity might be the next on the Kryler's long list of victims. The insectoid's quantum gateways were the key to the Milky Way, and no soft alliance races would lift a finger once the Kryler seized that network. The scarred merc pounded the flickering nav console, and the creaking ship lurched into the swirling nebula. Only two outcomes waited on the other side: victory against impossible odds, or a lonely death between the stars. But for a disgraced human with nothing left to lose, this reckless rescue was the last hope of a fresh start. Crawford couldn't afford to fail again. As the rickety ship exited the nebula, Crawford's eyes widened at the sight before him. Akamar Prime, once a thriving insectoid metropolis, lay in ruins. The planet's defenses had been shattered, and the Kryler warfleet swarmed over the surface like a plague of locusts. Flames engulfed entire city blocks, and the twisted remnants of skyscrapers reached desperately towards the stars. A frantic transmission crackled through the comm system. "This is Commander Pryler of the Akamarian Defense Force. To any ships in range, we need immediate assistance. The Krylor are slaughtering our people. We're trying to evacuate civilians, but we can't hold out much longer." Crawford hesitated, his finger hovering over the ignore button. Getting involved in this mess was suicide. His ship barely had enough firepower to scratch the Kryler's shields. But something in Pryler's voice, a mixture of courage and desperation, stirred a long-forgotten sense of duty within the grizzled merc. "Pryler, this is Captain Crawford of the Rusty Bucket. I'm here to provide air support. Give me the coordinates of your evac site, and I'll do what I can to cover your retreat." The Akamarian's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Captain. Transmitting coordinates now. Please hurry." Crawford gripped the controls tightly as he plunged into the planet's atmosphere, dodging the flaming debris of destroyed ships. A squadron of Krylor fighters quickly converged on his position, their plasma cannons glowing menacingly. "All right, you overgrown lizards, let's dance," Crawford growled, rolling his ship to evade the incoming fire. He returned a volley of his own, but the shots merely glanced off the Krylor's advanced shields. "Aid and divert all power to weapons," Crawford barked at his ship's AI. "Oh, now you want my help," the AI replied snarkily. "I thought you said you could handle this on your own, Captain. I don't need no stinking AI." "Shut up and do as I say, you glorified calculator," Crawford snapped, narrowly avoiding a missile lock. As the dogfight intensified, Aiden's holographic avatar flickered to life on the dashboard. "You know, Captain, if you'd bothered to read the manual, you'd know that this ship has a few tricks up its sleeve." "What are you talking about?" Crawford demanded, his attention split between the AI and the swarm of enemies. "Well, for starters, there's an experimental cloaking device that's been gathering dust in the cargo hold. And let's not forget the EMP weapon you liberated from the EDF before your hasty departure." Crawford's eyes lit up with a newfound sense of possibility. "Why didn't you tell me about this sooner, you bucket of bolts?" "You never asked," Aiden replied smugly. With a flick of a switch, The ship vanished from view, causing the Kryler fighters to scatter in confusion. Crawford used the momentary distraction to line up the perfect shot. A pulsing wave of energy erupted from the ship's bow, washing over the enemy squadron and shorting out their systems. The fighters spiraled out of control, crashing into the ruined cityscape below. Seizing the opportunity, Crawford raced towards the evac site, providing a much-needed reprieve for the beleaguered Akamarians. As the last of the civilian transports lifted off, a sense of triumph welled up in the old merc's chest. Maybe there was still a chance for redemption after all. But high above the planet's surface, aboard the Kryler flagship, a figure stirred in the shadows. Zorgash, the ruthless warlord, watched the scene unfold with a mixture of rage and fascination. Who was this interloper who dared to defy the might of the Kryler Empire? He would find out, and he would make them pay dearly for their insolence. Crawford guided the rusty bucket to a gentle landing on the pockmarked surface of the moon, dust billowing up around the ship's landing gear. As the engines powered down with a whine, he turned to face Kryler, who was hunched over a holomap of Akamar Prime's capital city. "All right, Bug. What's our next move?" Crawford asked gruffly, crossing his arms over his chest. Kryler's antennae twitched nervously as he looked up from the map. "The Kryler are searching for something, Captain. An ancient artifact known as the Heart of Akamar. It's said to possess immense power, and if they find it—" "Let me guess. Game over for the galaxy?" Crawford finished, his brow furrowing. Kryler nodded solemnly. "The heart is hidden in a secret temple beneath the capital city. If we can get to it before Zorgash does, we might have a chance to turn the tide of this war." Crawford leaned forward, studying the holomap intently. "Infiltrating an occupied city, crawling with Kryler? Sounds like a suicide mission. I'm in." A ghost of a smile flickered across Kryler's insectoid features. "I had a feeling you'd say that, Captain." Together, they devised a plan to disguise themselves as Kryler soldiers and slip into the city undetected. Crawford dusted off his old EDF infiltration skills, coaching Kryler on how to move and act like a hardened Kryler warrior. "Aiden, think you can hack into the Kryler's comms and give us some cover?" Crawford asked, glancing at the AI's holographic avatar. "Oh, now you want my help," Aiden retorted, his digital face smirking. "I suppose I could whip up a little something to keep us off their radar." As they prepared for the mission, Crawford found himself opening up to Kryler, sharing stories of his past failures and his desperate quest for redemption. In turn, Kryler spoke of his own struggles, of the weight of responsibility he carried as one of the last remaining Akamarian commanders. "You know, Crawford," Kryler said quietly, "when I sent out that distress call, I never expected anyone to answer, least of all a human." Crawford chuckled darkly. "Yeah, well, I've got a bad habit of sticking my nose where it doesn't belong." With their disguises in place, and Aiden feeding false information to the Kryler's security network, Crawford and Kryler set out for the occupied capital. They moved through the war-torn streets like ghosts, blending in with the Kryler patrols and avoiding detection. As they neared the temple's location, Crawford's heart pounded in his chest. This was it. Their one chance to strike a blow against the Kryler and maybe, just maybe, find a way to atone for his past sins. But as they descended into the temple's depths, they found themselves face to face with Zorgash himself, flanked by his elite guard. The Kryler warlord's eyes gleamed with malice as he beheld the intruders. "Well, well," Zorgash hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "What have we here, a pair of thieves come to steal the heart of Akamar from under my very nose?" Crawford and Kryler exchanged a tense glance, their hands tightening on their weapons. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had come too far to back down now. "Step aside, Zorgash," Crawford growled, his voice low and dangerous. "The heart belongs to the Akamarians, not some power-hungry tyrant like you." Zorgash threw back his head and laughed, a cruel, grating sound that echoed through the ancient chamber. "You have spirit, human. I'll enjoy breaking you." With a roar of fury, the Kryler warlord lunged forward, his blade flashing in the dim light. Crawford and Kryler met him head-on, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The ancient temple shook as Crawford and Pryler battled the Kryler elite, plasma blasts scorching stone walls. Dust rained down, obscuring sight. A rumble. The floor shifted. Crawford dove, narrowly avoiding a hidden pit trap. Pryler deciphered glowing runes, shouting directions. "Left, no, right," Pryler yelled. Darts whizzed by Crawford's face. He rolled, came up blasting. 2 Kryler dropped. Zorgash's bellowing laugh filled the chamber, pathetic humans scurrying like rats. Hatred burned in Crawford's gut. He charged, slamming into a Kryler guard. Bones crunched. Nearby, Pryler manipulated a complex Akamarian control panel. With a hiss, a doorway opened. "The artifact," Pryler pointed. Zorgash was faster. The warlord leapt, closing on the chamber. Crawford tackled him. They tumbled down stone steps, trading vicious blows. Zorgash's eyes blazed with rage. "Your kind destroyed my world," he roared. "Billions dead." Guilt tore at Crawford. The war, all those lives lost. He faltered. Zorgash struck, slamming Crawford into a pillar. Pain exploded in his skull. Through blurred vision he saw Pryler. The Akamarian emerged from the chamber, a glowing orb in his hands, the heart of Akamar. Raw power radiated from it. Zorgash threw Crawford aside. "Give it to me!" Indecision flickered across Pryler's face. The heart's energy pulsed, ancient and terrible. Time seemed to slow. The weight of the moment hung in the air. Pryler met Crawford's gaze, anguish in his compound eyes. A decision had been made. The heart began to glow brighter. Crawford sensed its building energy. Zorgash took a step forward. Pryler closed his hands around the orb. As the heart of Akamar pulsed with an otherworldly glow, Pryler's compound eyes widened in shock. The temple's inscriptions, etched in ancient Akamarian script, revealed the artifact's true nature. Not a weapon, but a device capable of bending time itself. Pryler's hands trembled as he read the warnings, his mind reeling at the implications. Using the heart could unravel the very fabric of reality, unleashing consequences too catastrophic to fathom. Crawford, his body battered and bruised from the brutal clash with Zorgash, staggered to Pryler's side. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, mixing with the sweat and grime of battle. He gripped Pryler's shoulder, his eyes fierce with desperation. "Use it," Crawford urged, his voice raw and hoarse. "Undo all of this. Save your people, Pryler." Pryler hesitated, torn between the overwhelming desire to protect his race and the fear of wielding such immense power. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, threatening to crush his resolve. In that moment of indecision, Zorgash, heavily wounded but fueled by an unyielding determination, lunged at Pryler. The Krylor warlord's eyes blazed with a manic hunger as he reached for the heart, his clawed fingers grasping at the glowing orb. Crawford reacted on instinct, throwing himself between Zorgash and Pryler. The two warriors collided in a tangle of limbs, their struggle desperate and primal. As they grappled for control, Pryler's grip on the heart faltered. The artifact tumbled from his hands, striking the temple floor with a resounding crack. A blinding flash of light erupted from the heart, engulfing the chamber in an ethereal radiance. Crawford felt a searing pain rip through his body as the world around him dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes. When the light faded, Crawford found himself back in the cockpit of the rusty bucket, the desperate pleas of the Akamarian diplomat echoing through the comm system once more. He blinked, disoriented, as the realization dawned on him. The heart had transported him back to the moment he first received the distress call from Akamar Prime. But this time, armed with the knowledge of what was to come, Crawford made a different choice. Instead of rushing headlong into the fray alone, he opened a channel to the entire Galactic Alliance. His voice, usually gruff and jaded, now carried a newfound conviction as he implored the disparate races to stand together against the Krylor threat. "This is Captain John Crawford, calling on all members of the Alliance," he began, his words pouring out in a fervent plea. "The Akamarians need our help. The Krylor are poised to slaughter their people and seize control of the quantum gateways. If we don't act now together, we may not have another chance." As the message broadcast across the galaxy, Crawford felt a glimmer of hope ignite within him. The heart of Akamar had shown him the truth, that survival in this vast and unforgiving universe depended not on isolation and self-interest, but on cooperation and shared sacrifice. Ships from across the Alliance converged on Akamar Prime, their weapons primed and their crews ready for battle. Crawford led the charge, his battered frigate at the forefront of the assault. The Krylor forces, caught off guard by the unexpected show of unity, fought back with savage ferocity. The battle raged across the planet's surface, and in the skies above a brutal dance of destruction and valor. Alliance ships clashed with Krylor warships, their hulls ablaze with the fire of 1,000 suns. On the ground, soldiers from a dozen worlds fought side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a common enemy. Amidst the chaos, Krylor sacrificed himself to destroy a massive Krylor dreadnought, his final act of bravery turning the tide of the battle. Crawford watched in anguish as his friend disappeared in a blaze of searing light, the explosion rocking the very foundations of the planet. In the end, the Alliance emerged victorious, but at a terrible cost. Entire cities lay in ruins, their once proud towers reduced to rubble and ash. The bodies of the fallen littered the battlefields, a grim testament to the price of freedom. As the smoke cleared and the fires died down, Crawford stood amidst the wreckage, his heart heavy with the weight of the lives lost. He knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, that the scars of this war would linger for generations to come. But he also knew that the galaxy had been forever changed by the events on Akamar Prime. The unity forged in the face of annihilation had given birth to a new hope, a fragile yet unbreakable bond that would guide them through the challenges to come. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.